Day 2 of the 2022 NHL Draft maybe hasn't been quite as crazy as day number 1 was. However, there's still been some significant moves made today, in particular on the trade market, and we're going to talk about all of those coming right up. So let's get into it. Today's trades, let's go. Hey everybody, so yesterday and last night, the first day of the NHL Draft, we saw some craziness going on in the NHL. So signings, trades, Shane Wright dropping to 4th overall. It was a lot of wacky and wild stuff that happened yesterday. And as day 2 of the draft is rolled along today, we've seen some more notable trades take place. And in this video, we're going to talk about those trades and see who has gone where and some of the changes made during the draft today. So without further ado, let's get into it. And we are going to start with the Detroit Red Wings acquiring goaltender Ville Husso from the St. Louis Blues. Husso was a pending free agent and was not going to be back with St. Louis, but before he even ever reaches free agency, is traded to Detroit and subsequently signs a 3-year contract extension with the Detroit Red Wings at just under $5 million per season. So Husso is traded to the Red Wings and then signed for a 3rd-round draft pick, which ended up being the 73rd overall pick in this year's draft, which obviously has, already taken place. And Husso is now a Red Wing to go along with Alex Nedeljkovic, who the Red Wings got last year in the offseason via trade, to be their goaltending tandem for this coming season. So overall, obviously, the big piece here, the player, is Husso. And for Detroit, this is a very Detroit move here. Sign him to a 3-year deal. Now you have Husso and Nedeljkovic as your tandem in goal. I don't think either of those guys is a true franchise going to carry the team #1 goaltender, but I do think that in a tandem, both of them can be very, very effective. We saw it with Nedeljkovic in Carolina. Even this past year with Nedeljkovic in Detroit, the team in front of him wasn't very good, obviously. He had some games where he struggled, but he had some other games where he looked really good and put out some good performances despite the team in front of him not being all that great. And then Husso obviously is coming off a career year with the St. Louis Blues. Again, I don't look to either of these guys to be, an absolute pillar that the team has to lean on and rely on, but I do think they both can be very solid goaltenders in a tandem situation, and that's who you've got right now if you're Detroit, is you've got 2 solid goalies to be a 1-2 punching goal and not have to rely on a single goaltender to carry the load. And I think that makes a lot of sense for the Red Wings where they're at right now. This is a team that is getting better, but it still isn't quite there yet. They don't need Andrei Vasilevsky, Igor Shesterkin type franchise guy right now. That's going to be more 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And I think, we saw them draft Sebastian Cossa last year. I think they're hoping that he becomes that. So it's kind of just, some sort of, middle ground to hold things over until then. Husso and Nedeljkovic can make a pretty solid tandem. So to me, that makes sense for Detroit here. And then obviously the Blues, they get a 3rd-round pick for a guy that they were going to lose in free agency anyway. So to get anything for Husso is a win for the Blues. The next trade that happened was another goaltender. The New Jersey Devils acquire goaltender Vitek Vanecek along with a 2nd-round pick from the Washington Capitals in exchange for a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick in this year's draft. All the picks were this year's draft, so those picks have since been made. But Vanacek goes to New Jersey, and goaltending in New Jersey, something that over the past couple years has become a big question mark, a big problem. They were hoping that Mackenzie Blackwood was going to get it together. He really hasn't. I remember when Blackwood, his rookie year, first came up. I mean, I was a huge Blackwood fan. There was a lot of hype around him. He played really well early on, but it's really been all downhill since then for Blackwood. Doesn't look like he's going to be the answer in goal. I think Nico Daws still has a lot of upside potential. with the Devils, and could be a guy that's a starting goalie in the NHL. But again, still very young, still very much a question mark. Vanachek is going to help solidify things a little bit. The way that he's helped solidify things in Washington the past 2 years, where the Capitals have really relied on Vanachek more than they hoped they would need to. And now he's in New Jersey, and he's going to be kind of tasked with the same type of role in New Jersey. Again, I don't think Vanachek's a franchise guy. I don't think he's a guy that's going to carry a team, but I think he's a solid goaltender who can give you good starts on a regular basis. And, when you pair him with a solid running mate in a tandem, he can be a very effective goaltender. And New Jersey needed to improve at the goaltending position. This improves them at the goaltending position, and to me, makes a lot of sense. They also, traded a little bit back in that second round. Capitals got an earlier second-round pick out of it and a third-round pick out of it. So the Caps get a couple of picks, and the Devils get a goaltender that they desperately needed. Probably the biggest trade of today is right here between the Philadelphia Flyers and Carolina Hurricanes. Tony DeAngelo, obviously a lot of question marks about his, him with character and locker room and all of that, but there is no doubt Tony DeAngelo can perform on the ice, and he is coming off a phenomenal year in Carolina, traded to the Philadelphia Flyers along with a 7th-round pick in exchange for a 4th-round pick in this year's draft, a 3rd-round pick in next year's draft, and a 2nd-round pick in 2024's draft. So the Hurricanes trade a D-man who's coming off a very, very good season with them, a redemption-type season with Carolina, to Philadelphia. They get 3 picks out of it. They throw the 7th to Philly, but again, 7th-round picks have like a less than 2% chance of actually playing in the NHL, so that's not much. But Philly here gets a big addition to their blue line, and obviously defense for Philadelphia has been such a problem over the past couple of years. A lot of guys have gone there and haven't worked out. They've given up a ton of goals each of the past 2 seasons. They've been one of the worst teams in the league as far as goals against are concerned. And this is a big add to the blue line for the Philadelphia Flyers. Ryan Ellis, who they acquired last offseason, only played 4 games last year because of injury, missed basically the entire season, and now is a huge question mark, again, injury-wise, going into this season. So Ellis has not panned out like the Flyers had hoped. DeAngelo's a guy that a right shot, can step in on that right side when needed, and could end up playing a top pair role if Ryan Ellis is not able to go at the start of the season for Philadelphia. And if he is, then you've got yourself, some significantly better defensive depth if Ellis is able to come back and play compared to what you had last year. So this is definitely a good move for Philadelphia, who desperately needed to add on the blue line, and they didn't have to give up too much to do it. 2nd-round pick being the highest pick that they sent to Carolina, and that's a couple years down the line still. So to me, I understand fully why the Philadelphia Flyers made this deal. And finally, Luke Kunin goes to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for John Leonard and a 3rd-round pick in 2023. So this is Nashville unloading Kunin from not only a salary cap standpoint, but also a roster standpoint. Nashville's got some guys that are starting to, play higher in the lineup, guys like Tolvanen and Tomasino, and there's more coming from down in the AHL. So Kunin's roster spot was kind of being taken. He was dropping further and further in the lineup. He's a solid bottom 6 winger, can bring some physicality and some toughness, can chip in offensively, but has never really become the big-time offensive producer that he was hoping that he would become, and has kind of just solidified himself as like a third-line type guy. Nashville really didn't need that anymore, so they ship him off to San Jose. They bring back a depth forward in John Leonard, another guy who's going to play, 4th line and, maybe extra forward, and they get a 3rd-round pick out of it. Kunin does still have some offensive upside, and he can chip in here and there, but he's never, this was a guy that when he first came in with Minnesota was kind of looked at as potentially a top 6 power forward who could score 20, 25 goals, maybe get to 50-ish points and bring that physical edge. The point production hasn't been there. The goal scoring hasn't been at that level. And, he's a physical player. He's definitely an NHLer. Like, he's a solid third-line type guy, but he just never reached the heights that he was expected to. And, again, Nashville's got some guys coming up that they're going to, be replacing that roster spot with. So he was expendable, I guess is the short way of saying what I'm trying to say here, is that Luke Kunin had become expendable for the Nashville Predators, and he's now off to San Jose. Obviously, Sharks kind of a middle of the road team. He'll play there, middle 6, and he'll bring some toughness to the lineup, chip in offensively. But the Preds, I think, were just trying to move on at this point. So those were the 4 notable trades today. There were some other trades, but most of them were just swapping picks. So not obviously going to talk about that. But trades that actually impact NHL rosters, these are the 4 that happened today. And it was another, fairly active day at the draft as pieces are still moving as we really start to ramp things up this offseason and teams start to, make their changes and follow along with their plans for what they're going to do this offseason to get ready for next year, which is coming. So with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. But with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, links to our merchandise store, membership, and donations are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.